Hey everyone. Um, I just wanted to uh, come on here and make a short-ish video. Um, you know, mental health awareness is uh, mental health awareness month is this month, and um, it's been observed. Mental health awareness month is observed every May, and um, as someone who lives with uh, mental health, mental illness, I thought I would make a short-ish video um, talking about stuff that I live with and stuff that I struggle with. To because I believe that it's healthy to talk about it, and um, it's something that there are stigmas about mental health that I feel that need to be addressed and debunked and stopped. Um, and I find it very healthy to talk about it, and I might get a little emotional, a little worked up talking about it, but that's just the kind of person that I am. Um, I I live with severe anxiety and depression. Um, I would say uh, my anxiety is more severe than my depression, if that makes any sense. Uh, but I do live with both. I had my very first anxiety attack uh, like 10 years ago, I think. And I was driving, and that really sucked. I had this massive attack, and I saw a doctor, and I described things that were happening with me, and I have been on medication for anxiety and depression since then. Um, I basically I try not to think about the future too much because I feel like that is where my it's interesting because I don't think there's any one, at least in terms of the anxiety and depression that I live with. Um, I don't think there's any one root cause of it. I have anxiety and depression about a number of things, really. But I think the main thing is that I try not to think about the future too much because the future scares the hell out of me. And I don't really have uh, a plan, so to speak, for the future, you know. Or as Phoebe once said on Friends, I don't even have a play, you know. uh, my my goal for the future is to love and provide for my wife the best way I can, and to uh, make enough money and put away enough money to secure our future. That's my end goal. Uh, Other than that, I try not to think about the future too much because it scares the hell out of me. I don't have a plan. I think the other thing is that my anxiety, and again, I think the fact that I live with I live with anxiety and depression, but my anxiety is more severe than my depression. I think the other thing too is that my anxiety, uh, the kind of anxiety that I live with, it stems from like I start worrying about things that are really important, and then that snowballs into things that snowballs into me worrying about things that have nothing whatsoever to do with me. You know, I think worry about things that I have absolutely that don't affect me in any way. I think the other thing that scares me too is like things that are out of my control. You know, one of the things that I uh, am slowly learning about myself, even recently, is that I think I'm more of a control freak than I let on, or I'm more of a control freak than I think I am. Like even when uh, like let's say that I come home from work and uh, I put stuff away in a certain spot, and then the next day, uh, like I forget where I put it, and or I forget where I put things, or I don't know where things are, and I get really overwhelmed and really irritable and really kind of angry. Um, I don't you know I guess I like to know where all my stuff is. You know, I like to I like to keep things. I try to keep things organized. Uh, so when things get misplaced, or if I can't remember where I put things, I get really really irritated. Um, and you know, if I can't show you right now, but like the desk that I'm at right here is a little cluttered. Uh, but I saw this kind of desk label, like a desk sign that said a clean desk is a cluttered mind. So I like that. Um, you know, and again, I think you know I'm slowly learning stuff about myself as well. Like I you know naturally when I've been on medication for my anxiety and depression for 10 years now, and but I'm still slowly learning things about myself. You know, like I you know anxiety disorders are the number one most diagnosed mental disorder in America. You know, and that I didn't even know. You know, like I did some research when I started taking medication. You know, and it's like the one of the symptoms of anxiety is biting your nails, and I'm like, oh really? I've been doing that since I was 6. uh, you know, I don't know. I just like talk. I feel it's important to talk about these things. I don't really know the root cause of my anxiety and depression. I think it had a lot to do, and I'm not saying, like, I'm not placing any blame. I am in no way placing blame on anyone or anything, but I you know I think when I was in high school, my younger sister, I have a younger sister, and she was in middle school. Um, our parents went through a really they went through a divorce, and in high school, you're trying to figure yourself out enough as it is. So when your parents are going through divorce, that makes it even more difficult. And I'm not in any way placing blame on anyone or anything. Like I'm not blaming my parents' divorce for my mental struggles in any way. These are just facts. I'm not bitter, I'm not angry, I'm not placing blame. These are just um these are just matter of fact things. And I think the other thing too is like when you're again in high school, when you're struggling to find yourself, and in a lot of ways I'm still finding myself. um, and I'll talk about that in a minute. But when you're going through high school and you're going through all these changes and you're struggling to find yourself, and in the midst of all that, your parents are going through a really not so pleasant divorce. It can kind of, I don't want to say traumatizing, but it can have an effect. And I I think for a while, um, I was hesitant about. I was extremely hesitant about uh, getting married or even getting into a serious relationship because I saw what that did to my parents, and I was like, I don't want to turn out like them. And that has to do with like my self confidence. Like, you know am I going to turn into my father? It's a whole thing. um, and it took me a long time to realize, like, you know in many ways I am my father, and in many ways I'm not. And just because my parents got divorced just because our parents got divorced doesn't mean that's going to happen with me. Um, and again, I'm not in any way bitter or angry or placing blame on anything or anyone. These are just facts. I think I struggle with my self confidence sometimes. Actually, a lot of the time. I struggle with um, being a good son, being a good brother, being a good husband. I have uh, most most days I have no idea what I'm doing. I just I just go with the flow, and I try to be the best. I just try to be the best version of myself that I can be. I just roll with the punches, man. Like I don't know. I struggle with my self confidence. I struggle with um, you know I struggle with I I even I try very hard to be a good uh, worker where I work. I put a lot of pressure on myself to be a good employee, because I want to be the best employee that I can. Um, you know, uh, I came my my depression, the medication helps. I mean, both with my anxiety and my depression, the medication helps extremely well. But I still sometimes have anxiety attacks or small bouts of depression. But when that happens, I tend to, I'm a big uh, film guy. I'm a big movie buff. So when I'm going through a dark times, I try to watch stuff that inspires me. That inspired me to become a filmmaker. Um, I struggle with, you know, I think I even struggle with how I look physically. Like I should be in better shape. Uh, my wife tells me all the time. She's like, "You're so handsome," and I'm like, I even struggle with that shit. You know, um, but like I said, I think my my anxiety is very severe. I even had a very severe attack just a few days ago, uh, and I just couldn't even, like, I was just ugly crying for like 10 minutes. It was bad. I as far as my anxiety go, as far as my anxiety goes, I try to think of like what would I like it. Sometimes I think about, like, if I were getting to know somebody, or if I were to if somebody were trying to get to know me and then they were like, tell me a little bit about yourself, right? Like, what are your interests? What type of personality do you have? All that stuff. I would say, well, first of all, I am, as my wife would say, I'm a 40-year-old man child. I am a geek at heart. I love science fiction, fantasy, and horror. Um, and I was, uh, because of my interests, because I was interested in that stuff as a kid, I grew up in a time where you got bullied a lot for you got bullied for liking that stuff. Now it's mainstream, so it's cool, but I loved that stuff before it was cool to love that stuff. Before it was mainstream, I should say. And I do remember a specific incident where I was shoved into a locker, um, just because of the way I dressed and the way I would wear like Star Wars shirts, like the one I'm wearing now, and it's just, um, and I think, and this goes back to my anxiety thing, to my anxiety, like, I think because I was bullied about my love of science fiction, fantasy, and horror as a kid, I still don't feel to this day 100% comfortable talking about my love of those genres, um, with, like, I would rather talk to someone about my love of Star Trek and Star Wars and stuff like that with other people that are interested in that stuff than, like, some, if I were if I made a new friend or whatever and they were like, what are your interests, and I could go on and on and on about my love of that stuff, and they're not really interested in it, but they're listening to me talk about it because they like how passionate I am about it. But I would rather express my love of those things with other people have I have common interests with, instead of expressing my love of those things to um, people who are just there to listen, if that makes any sense. I'm not sure if it does. I still have trouble opening up to people about that kind of thing, simply because I think a lot of it still has to do to this day with the fact that I was bullied as a kid. Um, you know, I don't I have terrible social anxiety. I I I I don't like crowds. I get incredibly overwhelmed in when it comes to being in large groups of people. Um, However, um, I will say this: I have a very understanding and compassionate wife. My wife is very. She's like, "Is there anything I can do? What do you need?" And a few years ago, my wife and I were living in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and we went to the balloon fiesta. And for anybody who doesn't know, the balloon fiesta is extremely crowded. And I was like, I don't know. Like, I would love to, but I don't know if I can handle it. I hope I don't freak out on you. And she was like, well, if we need to sit and so you can breathe, like, we will do that. And I was like, okay. And this may sound a little weird, but like, we were there at the balloon fiesta and we had a great time. And I think if I think a mate the reason I was okay, I did okay in that kind of environment, was because I could she was always there. Like, I could see her. I think if, like, physically I could, like, reach out and put my hand on her shoulder, and she, like, we would walk together. And I think if I had, like, physically lost sight of her, or like lost her in the crowd or whatever, I probably would have like doubled over in, like, the fetal position and in tears or something. you know I don't even go to movies opening weekend anymore. I can't handle it. And you know I strictly speaking, as a film goer, I love seeing movie theaters. I love seeing packed movie theaters. I love that. I just it can it personally, it can be a little overwhelming for me. But as a film goer, I love seeing it. It's just I can't handle going to it. I don't um yeah, I'm terrible in crowds. I can't even go, like, sometimes even going grocery shopping. Like, I my wife sometimes says to me, she says, I know you don't like grocery shopping. And I'm like, no, I don't mind grocery shopping. It's the people that I can't, um, you know, that I can't stand. I just, as I'm saying this, I realize it's ironic that I work in retail, but I think I'm so focused on my work when I'm at work that I don't have time to think about getting overwhelmed when it comes to crowds at work. Um, I mean, sometimes I do have to take deep breaths and be like, just like sometimes because people are always moving in so many different directions. Sometimes I just have to be like it's okay, you know. But again, if someone were to ask me, like, tell me a little bit about yourself, tell me a little, what's your personality like? I am very much a homebody. I don't, but I'm trying to get better. I try very, very hard to get better because my wife is extremely extroverted. Um, she likes going out and doing nice things, and so I want to be a good husband, and I want to be better at that. Um, there was something else I was gonna say. Um, it had to do with my social anxiety. Um, I don't do well in when it comes to crowds. I don't do well uh, trying new things. I if someone were like trying new things is a challenge for me. I mean, I love trying new things, but it's just it like trying new things is always overwhelming for me. Like even doing my my show. Uh, Sometimes I even struggle coming up with the right words to say. You know, just because I'm not used to. I've been doing it for a while now, and I'm still not used to being on camera. you know, I um like I would rather it's they call it the comfort zone for a reason. I don't I want to try new things, um, but it can be a struggle for me. Like I will get overwhelmed trying new things. It's just who I am. Um, but yeah, I don't like I would love to go to Comic Con. I would love to go to a Star Trek convention, but I don't know if I could handle it. You know. So those I just wanted to talk about my what I live with, the kind of anxieties, the kind of the things that give me anxiety. Um, I struggle with self confidence. I want people to like me. I am so awkward. uh, One of the reasons I loved going to film school was that you know if you're in the arts, you are natural. I firmly believe that if you're in the arts, there's something about you like you have to be a little awkward to be in the arts. And one of the things I loved about going to film school was that we all knew that we were all collectively awkward, and it was just fun being awkward together. You know, um, you have to be a little fucked up to be in the arts. Um, I want people to like me. I struggle with my self confidence. Like I said, I struggle with I don't like how I look physically. I think I could, I my wife tells me I'm handsome, and I'm like, you know, I a number of years ago, I came. I have never in terms of my depression. I have never ever attempted to take my own life. A number of years ago, I came pretty close, but my wife was there for me. I even have um, I have a tattoo here. I don't know if you can really see it. Um, it it says um, life, and it has the EKG symbol there. Um, I got the idea for this after I the so there was a number of years ago I came pretty close to taking my own life, and I talked with I my one of my friends at the time and my wife. They both got me through it, and the day after that I got the idea again. I don't know if you can really. I got the idea for this tattoo, um, and I got it done. And it I got this as a reminder that while death may be easy, life is much more worth it. And it's a struggle for me every day. There are some days where you know uh, I have had a couple of two or three times where I can't even get out of bed because I my anxiety and depression is just like the combination of the two is just it's too much, you know. I don't feel like doing anything really. Um, and I know, and I give all the credit in the world to my wife Katie. I know that I am not easy to deal with. May Odin bless her because you know, I know that living with that being my wife is a struggle, um, and um, I just wanted to talk about the kinds of things that I live with, the kinds of things that give me anxiety, um, you know, and it doesn't help that you know, we there's a lot of crazy shit going on in the world these days. That doesn't help either. Thank God for satirical news like Jon Stewart. You know, thank Odin for him. Good grief. I don't know how I'd get through it. I don't know how. Anyway, um, you know, I, like I said, I struggle. My self confidence can get low. I don't think I'm like I said. My wife tells me I'm very handsome, and I'm like, you know, my anxiety, my social anxiety. You know, I'm a mess. I'm a mess, and I I again, and I want to be clear here. I am not placing blame on anyone or anything. These are just facts that I live with. These are just things that I live with, and I deal with it every day, and I'm on medication for it. Um, I have been for 10 years. And the interesting thing is that, give me just a second. I'm getting speaking of my wife, um, hold on. I, there have been a couple times where, I just happened to forget taking my medication. And I find that if I forget to take my medication, I'm fine for that day. Like, oh, I'll be all right. It's the day after that I'm just like, that I'm just a mess, because it's out of my system, and I just it's the you know yeah I it's I struggle with, am I a good husband? Am I a good son? Am I a good brother? Am I a good person? I mean, good lord, these are you know, and there have been times when, like, I have, you know, my wife asks me a lot. She says, "What are you thinking?" And I'm like, "I don't know." And I tell her I don't know because I don't know where to start, because I always feel like there's something on my mind. But if I start to tell her, then I'll just never stop. You know, I always feel like there are so many things on my mind, and there have been a couple of times when it feels like my brain is on overload and it just won't stop, you know. I've I don't know if I should admit this, but I've taken a couple. There was for for a couple of months. I was occasionally taking um, CBD gummies. Um, Not all the time, but like if I was only if I was really, really, really stressed. And again, I don't know if I should admit this or not, but like if I was really, really, really stressed, I wouldn't take the whole thing either. I would like cut it in half or cut it into small quarter pieces and take it, and I would just like I nothing and I would just be so calm. I have when it comes to my anxiety, like I crinkle paper a lot, and it drives my wife crazy. Um, like I fold paper and I crinkle paper, and I have 17,000 stress balls around here somewhere. I don't know where, but you know, these are the kinds of things that I live with, and I feel it's uh, I just wanted to talk about it for a minute, or for a little bit. I feel it's important to, if you're living with mental illness, mental health issues, I feel it's important to talk about. I feel it's healthy to talk about. And if you, um, if you are someone who struggles with mental health or any kind of mental health issues, you are not alone. Um, uh, there's stigmas that need to be stopped. Um, and, I hope everyone is doing okay. I think, especially for men, I think um, there are stigmas out there regarding men and mental health. And, uh, you know, it's okay for men to cry. And it took me a long time to realize that too. And look, I've always said it's okay not to be okay. There's that old phrase, it's okay not to be okay. And I am in so many ways not okay. But I get through it every day. Um, again, I live life on a daily basis. I try not to think about the future too much. But there are stigmas regarding men and mental health, and that men always constantly have to be strong, and that, you know, we're not supposed to deal with our shit, and um that stigma needs to stop, you know. And that, you know, there are stigmas about mental health that, you know, just because you, like, if you live with mental health issues, that I think there are stigmas out there like you're unable to function in the real world, and that's all bullshit. You know, if you get the proper care that you need, you know. And by the way, everyone, uh especially when it comes to mental health, because I would say that mental health is more important than physical health. They're both important, but I would say that mental health is just as, if not more important than physical health. Everyone should be able to get the help that they need for their mental health. Did I say that right? Everyone should be able to get the kind of help that they need for their mental health. Yes. Um, uh, you know, that's just a fact. Um, you know, again, it's tough out there. The world is, um, but if you live with mental health issues, if you're going through anything, reach out. You are not alone, and I feel that it's healthy for me to talk about. I feel that it's healthy for everybody to talk about stuff that they struggle with. Um, I I don't mind talking about the shit that I deal with. You know, I've had people, like, ask me about it and then apologize for asking me. I'm like, no, I don't mind at all. Um, you know, I talk about it because I feel that it's important for other people to talk about it, and it helps me to talk about it too, for me to realize the kind of person that I am. You know, uh, yeah. So if you're living with any kind of mental health issues, don't feel bad. Reach out, talk about it. You are not alone. Um, you know, it's okay not to be okay. And so, yeah, so I just wanted to talk about the kinds of things that I deal with. Um, and hopefully, uh, I feel that it's healthy too. And hopefully, you know, I feel that talking about these kinds of things is healthy. And that's why I like talking about it. I don't mind talking about it. But yeah, I just wanted to say a few words, and I hope everyone else out there is doing well. Uh, I hope you're okay, and if not, I hope you get the help that you need, because you should be able to get the help that you need, and you're not alone. So yeah, um, have a good rest of your day, and I hope you're all doing well.